Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Midlife Muscle and Strength Podcast. I'm Mickey Kilmartin with
JP Viansek.
And today we are blessed with a longtime friend. What is it, 20 years I've known you now? Pete, I think, at least. We're getting old, man. Peter Lepak from, I think, originally Windsor, Connecticut, I'm going to say. And now you're living in, are you Farmington now? Where are you?
South Windsor, Connecticut.
South Windsor. Oh, no. Wait, is your brother in Farmington? Where is your brother now? Where's Chris?
My brother's coaching the girls team at Farmington High School.
Yeah, the Lepaks are everywhere in Connecticut. If you're a Connecticut soccer person, you probably have heard the Lepak name, so he won't be new to you. But we got Pete Lepak. We had Jay Douglas previously a few episodes ago talking about club soccer, training young people, and all that fun stuff. And I thought Pete would be a great person to jump on because he's got a lot of great perspectives on it. He's been coaching for a long, long time. So I'm going to let him tell us a little bit about himself. So, Pete, introduce yourself to the people.
Right. Hello, everybody. My name is Pete Lepak. I am a soccer coach in South Windsor, Connecticut. I grew up in Windsor, Connecticut, right across the river, and played soccer there at Loomis Chafee. My brothers were all soccer players as well. They actually went to Windsor High School, and they were co-captains at Windsor High. My brother, Paul, ended up playing with Mickey and in college at Springfield. And I got a chance to coach my brother when he was a senior. That's really when it started. So I started coaching when I was about 18 years old. I was the youngest Connecticut high school varsity coach. I think I was like 22 coaching 18-year-olds. I've learned a lot since I was 22 years old. I'm now 45, been coaching South Windsor High School for the last 11 years.
Wow.
Also coach youth soccer in South Windsor. So I coach the travel age. So right now we're a youth 13 team. So all my 2013 boys, so they're all seventh graders. And that's going to be pretty awkward because in 2 years they're going to come and join the high school and play for me at the high school, where it becomes a lot more cutthroat. And I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's. So have you been doing club the same amount of time as you've been doing the high school thing, or did club come later after high school stuff?
Pretty much. So, I mean, the whole thing started my senior year of high school. I'm at Loomis. I'm realizing I'm not going to be able to play college soccer. One of the big things was I never had the drive to train outside of the school of the season. I really started getting into weight training and cross training and outside of sport training in college, and when it was too late. I also was thinking about being a doctor, so I knew that I wasn't going to be able to go to a Division I school and play soccer. I just didn't have the skill, the drive, the interest, really. So that's one of my big things now as a coach, is just kind of trying to influence the high school kids to realize this is more than a 3-month season. And I tell them all the time, I ruined my chance because I didn't know what you could do in the off season and all the options that there are. And I also really wasn't pushed. I have parents that are very supportive, as you know, great parents, but not athletes. And really, if I said I want to do this today, sure, let's do it. But didn't really have the knowledge of options where you could send your children for off-season training, or even just bringing them to a field and saying, hey, let's go play some soccer and get comfortable. So that was kind of a big point that I try to talk to my players about. But yeah, so I coach youth soccer. I have never coached premier soccer, and that's actually on purpose, which we can talk about later. But my focus is on the town itself. I also coach. I'm also the coaching director in town, so I work with young or newer coaches of travel soccer and kind of teach them how to set up like the American style of soccer practice and soccer training.
So my first question is, are you busy or what?
I like to say in the fall that I shouldn't even say I like to say, because I don't like to say it, but I don't see my family. I am married to the game in the fall, 4 to 5 days a week with my youth team, 6 days a week with the high school team, and then I'm going to watch training that other coaches are putting on and give them feedback, as well as coaching training or training of the coaches. And then I've recently got into helping out with the referee training as well.
Well, that's
Wow,
great. So,
every aspect covered.
yeah, you got and I mean, I find that pretty incredible for like a town level travel team to have that involved. Because I mean, this is where my question is leading is, do you think like when you were a kid, travel soccer or club soccer, because you didn't play club, right? You just played high school and then that was it. But you saw like Paul go through it a little bit and
Right.
experience that. Is it different now compared to back then, or is it roughly the same structure and all that, as far as coaches go and how many games they play, cost, all that? Do you see a difference, or is it very similar?
In some ways it's different, and in some ways it's exactly the same. I mean, when I was younger in Connecticut, there was really only two options if you wanted to play Premier Soccer, and they had one team each, and you were asked to try out, and if you didn't make that team, there was no other option for Premier. So it was a true elite team. Now there are 15 Premier options. There are 3 levels or 4 levels at each Premier team. So if you don't make a travel team, which is just the local town team, you
Mm-hmm.
can go to a Premier team, and basically, if you have money, they'll probably take you. And they have, level 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the level 4 of soccer is really low. The difference, I guess, is when you're going to a travel program, which is just town soccer, you might have 2 or 3 experienced coaches, and everybody else is a parent volunteer who's doing their best.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to Premier, even at the lowest level, you have paid coaches who have actual coaching experience. So I do understand if a team or if a player doesn't make a travel team, they don't have any other options in town. Besides, there's a rec program, which is essentially one practice a week, one game on the weekends. It's more just pick up fun soccer. A lot of them will go to Premier and they'll play on a lower level Premier team just to get experience playing with a an actual coach who kind of knows what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, those teams have the same issues as any other low level travel team. The, the level is not strong. The motivation of the kids is not very good, and a lot of those kids end up not staying in the program too long. So it's a money grab, unfortunately, now, when Premier was more about showing true talent in the state of Connecticut.
Do you find, like, if you were a parent, I guess, would you say, what route would you go? Like, if you had the option to do travel or you have the option to do Premier, your kid can make either one. Would you say that the travel option is the way to go, or even maybe your kid's not super interested, but you want him to get into the game, maybe just go the rec league? Like, what do you think a path that a parent might want to take would
I
be?
mean, the first thing we have in our town is they have like the youth rec soccer for U4. So it's like 3 and 4 year olds getting together, and then at about 5 and 6 years old, they have little clinics where all the kids work together. And then around 7, they make teams, and they'll make teams of 5 or 6 kids, and then you play in that town. You'll play 4v4 games. And I started coaching there at the young age, but when we got to the games, is I put on my true coaching hat, and I'm watching each team going, this kid's pretty good. This kid's okay. We can work with this kid. Oh, this kid's got some skill.
Started
All right.
recruiting early.
Yeah. And so by the time they were 8 years old, I had already pretty much said, okay, this will be our group of players. And then I started getting them together and training them. But in answer to your question, I mean, I think the most important thing is to get your kid involved in some kind of a sport and see where it goes, see where they take the experience. There are some parents who feel like, oh, we're going to go to Premier. It's very important. Even as a soccer guy, I'm like, I just want my son to play. And I really think it's important to play with the kids in your town. Being a high school coach, that's what I know the end product's going to be for most of these players. So let's get them all together to play. So yeah, I mean, I had all of my son and his friends from town. We all played on the same travel team when they were U8 and U9, and I started getting conversations from parents saying, "Well, what do we do next? Like, what about Premier? I don't want to leave this team because we really enjoy the experience." And I said, "Well, look." I wouldn't do Premier right now, but you do whatever you want. The following year at U10, I started watching some of the Premier teams in the local area, and we started playing against them. And we were very competitive, either losing by a goal, winning by a goal. But they were great games. And I got to the point where I realized, okay, the amount of skill on the Premier level is pretty good right now. And I told all those parents, now's the time to basically try out for this team. However, we can make both work, which a lot of parents were hesitant at first, like playing on two teams. What is this all about? Like, well, look, I can make you better, but Premier is going to make you better faster because you're going to be playing against better players. You're going to be playing with better players in training. So a lot of my kids kind of said, okay, we'll do that. And currently every single Premier player that I had at U9 is now still playing Premier and playing on my travel team as well. So they're all double rostered. And there are definitely times when it doesn't work. But I'm like, okay, well, go to Premier and, we'll miss this game, or, we can maybe reschedule the travel game. So I would say just let the kids' experience kind of dictate where you go. Because I'm very lucky. All my parents have enjoyed their travel experience and have also put their kid up for a Premier team. Some have made the team, some have not, but there's a lot of our kids that are double rostered.
That's very cool. Yeah, you have such a unique experience of like seeing like from the young age to the high school. It's like great to see. Do you lose a lot of kids? Like obviously you said like you coach your son, like 8th grade or 8 years old. As they get older, do you lose a lot of kids to like private schools? Because I love what you said about like keeping the kids in town, like playing together. I played lacrosse, and that's how we all played. We all played like youth lacrosse together, and then we all played high school together, which is a great, just perspective to have. And community wise, I didn't know if you lost like kids to private schools or how it was in Connecticut at all.
Yeah, I mean, we do. We have Loomis Chaffee, which is 15 minutes away, which is actually the high school I went to. There's also schools that we play against in our league that are Catholic schools, Northwest Catholic and East Catholic, that kids tend to go to. There's a lot of options. When I first came to South Windsor High School, there were a couple of kids that were playing on the East Catholic soccer team. It's awkward kind of going to a game and you're playing against a kid that they've played with. Currently, right now, we have a very odd situation. We have two players that I actually was coaching when they were 9 years old. For a couple of years, I was helping a team out. And they are two kids from, I think one's from Egypt. Maybe they're both from Egypt. But they came to South Windsor when they were very young. And their parents enrolled them in a school that is in the next town over to us in East Hartford High School. And so there's a little like like a science or math academy that's connected to the high school. Mm-hmm. So even though they're South Windsor High School or South Windsor residents, they're going to this little mini school connected to East Hartford High School. So they're playing for East Hartford High School. And It kills me because I see them. They come to all of our games and wave, and they know all the players, and they're good friends with one of my defenders, but they can't play for me. But that's obviously a rarity. Most of these kids are staying in town and are staying because our town is a pretty strong soccer town, and it's a pretty good school and district, so a lot of the kids do stay.
Yeah, that's nice.
So, Pete, club soccer, high school soccer. I love what you said about, let your kids sort of choose their path. Because I think a lot of times parents feel the pressure to push their kids in a certain direction, or their kid's too young to make the right decision. So you pick for them and and you may end up sending your kid down a path that they don't really want to go down. It's more your interests. Do you have, outside of the like high school club stuff, doing training and clinics, do you have like any advice to parents in that same realm of like, when should kids start doing any training specific, like doing clinics or getting a coach to do one-on-ones or group setting stuff? Or do you think just letting kids play for a while first and then start to like maybe not specialize, but have them do some specific stuff towards soccer at a certain age? Because I know for me, like, and you probably had the same experience, I played until I was like 7 or 8 before I even was on like a real team. Like they didn't have a lot of organized stuff before you were like 6. Now, I mean, you can start at 3 years old. Kids can play soccer in our town. So, do you see people making mistakes or kind of pushing kids into like training specifically too early, or what's your advice in that realm of things?
Yeah, as I was saying earlier, let the kids kind of dictate their interest level. I get nervous when I see parents that are, trying to go 4 hours away for their kid to play on a team, or to find a certain trainer. I do personal trainings occasionally. It's not my favorite thing because I hate taking parents' money, for an hour session to spend $100 or $80, whatever the cost may be at 11 years old. Why? I just feel like there's so many more options out there where you can take your kid to the turf down the street, and even if you're not a soccer player, roll the ball out and let them shoot. Put 5 cones down and let them dribble in between cones. I actually have a YouTube page. I texted you yesterday about it. I have a YouTube page where it started as, how can I educate coaches in town? Because I kept getting some of the same questions. Well, how do I do this? How would I set this up? I don't understand. And instead of telling the story where they go, okay, great, and then they try it and they have no idea what they're doing or they don't understand, I said, well, let me just make a video about it and then you can see it. And a lot of the videos that I put out there are kind of trying to help those parents or teams that maybe coaches that don't have a great background. But a lot of it is just take 5 cones, put 5 cones down and bring your kid to the turf for 40 minutes. And if you're a dad or mom, stand in goal and just watch your kid dribble through and say, okay, shoot on me. And at 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, they're going to have no problems doing that. Now, if at 13, they start going, I don't want to do this against you, or you could just tell that they're going too fast. They're shooting the ball. That's too hard. You don't want to get in front of it. Then maybe you can start looking for other options, or even talking to coaches. There's so many coaches out there that I get this question all the time from parents. Oh, where should I send my kid for training? And a lot of my thing is like, well, practices, call up some friends, bring them to the turf. Oh, well, what about individual training? Why? If you're good enough, you're gonna show to your family that you're motivated. You're like my son now. I mean, Paul was the same way when Paul was a kid. My brother, every day in the summer, he'd get up, he'd go for a run, he'd go to the turf, he'd go play soccer on his own. And Chris and I would look at him like, what is he doing? And that was internal motivation for him. And my parents realized it, and that's why he was the only premier player growing up, because they were like, all right, we'll get you involved in something because you look like you want to be involved. When I was just happy in the morning to kind of get up and ride my bike around for, 8 hours during the summer. So, like my son's always asking to play soccer every single time if it's a winter snowstorm. And we do have a little small facility in town. And I'll just say, hey, do you want to go to the turf and play for an hour? Yeah, absolutely. Can we call these people? Can we go? He's very motivated and excited to do that. And so because of that, I look at, okay, what can I sign him up for in the summer? Do you want to go to a camp? I run my own camp as well, so he has to go to those. But it gives him, he's showing to me what he wants. And I feel like so many parents, their big mistake is they try to enroll their kid in everything, and the kids get burned out, and then they quit. And now these parents are going, well, I don't understand. Like, well, yeah, you signed them up for 50,000 things at 7 years old. They didn't want to do that. And my son didn't want to do that either. So we kind of followed the path of what he was interested in. And so far, I guess it's working because he's really enjoying soccer, like loves it, talks about it, thinks about it all the time. He's kind of motivating himself.
The intrinsic stuff, that's the bread and butter, right? Yeah. Kickboard life, right? Pete, like I remember I spent so many hours I had a kickboard at home. My dad built for me, but there was one in town. And I used to, when we were training in college, I did the same thing as Paul. I would go to the field alone in college and just spend hours there doing my training, kicking against the board, doing fitness stuff. Like I never had individual one-on-one or even group training. I just played club and then like premier. But the whole individual training thing is becoming so huge, especially with social media and stuff out there, that people chase that shiny thing and think that their kid needs it. But I love what you said. Like, if your kid's really good and really interested, they're going to make their way anyway. You don't have to go find it for them. They're going to find that way, that route anyway.
I mean, now don't get me wrong. When you get older, you get to high school, and you're really, you need maybe some kind of an outlet. There's nothing wrong with trying to find somebody that can kind of help you out. But even when they get to high school, at least in our town, I mean, the amount of stuff that these kids do together, that they don't need trainers. I mean, they make their own indoor teams, so they play winter soccer in like 2 or 3 teams in, a couple towns away. They play other high school teams. In the summer, we have a summer league where they play once a week on Sunday nights. And then now we're allowed to train our players 2 practices during a week during the summer. So all summer, I'm basically training them as well. So they have plenty of opportunities to get better without having to find an individual trainer.
Yeah, that's great. Like strength, like wise, like with your high school team, do you do like dedicated like plyometrics, or like what do you think about like strength training for soccer players, or like how do you implement that in? Obviously, you've been coaching for 11 years at the high school, like that culture of not just like you talked about, like not just the 3 months of the season. Kind of how have you added strength and training in, and then like how have you like try to change the culture of the team? Obviously, it had
I mean, when I first got into, well, I should say, when I started in Windsor, so 22 years ago, when I started at Windsor High School, and I'm 22 years old coaching this team, I have no idea what I'm doing. So every day is just kind of learning from your mistakes, learning what am I not doing, what can I do better. By like the 3rd year, I realized this should be more than a 3-month season. What about weight training? And so I would invite the team in the winter time, and we would do weight training. And what it came down to, I realized a lot of these kids have no idea how to deal with weight. So that's the number one thing, is to try to teach them. And I'm not a certified, I've been in the gym for many years, but so trying to kind of balance how do I teach them the technique without having them do anything crazy. And the first thing I realized was, okay, especially for soccer, it is not about the amount of weight. You're looking at just maintaining, and you're looking at keeping flexible and adding a little bit of strength, but nothing to where, you show up in the off season and you show up in September and you've got, huge biceps. Because I would have players, and I would say, okay, let's just go to the gym. Let me show you a couple things. And 5 minutes in, there's 3 kids doing bicep curls. And I'll walk up to them. How does that help your soccer experience? So let me call it beach muscles. No beach muscles allowed. And then I came up with kind of like a little form and would say, okay, you write the date down, and here's your 25 options. You have to pick 10 of these options minimally before you can leave. 3 sets of 10 or 3 sets of 12. Write down, the weight that you used. And that really worked well in Windsor. And then I started to see kind of a drop off in interest level. And that was kind of my big sign in Windsor. Like, I don't know if this is really for me, because as I'm starting to increase what I want to do, the kids aren't really joining me. And I was having a couple of rough years in Windsor as a teacher, and we would always play South Windsor. Always really respected those kids. Really loved the work ethic of those South Windsor players. And I got a phone call from the South Windsor coach, who said, "Hey, listen, I'm leaving the team because I'm going to be an administrator. Do you want to apply for the team and coach?" Okay, great. And kind of went from there. And my first meeting with the players, I asked about off-season work, and they kind of like, off-season? We can do off-season work? Yep. And immediately in the wintertime in the gym, we have like 40 kids in the gym. And I went, oh, this is where I want to be.
Right.
So we really did a lot of weight training, 2-3 times a week in the wintertime. And then in the summer, you weren't allowed to train with kids in the summer, but we would meet twice a week and do some kind of long distance running, or we would do some sprinting, just anything where we can kind of stay active, and talking to them about good food habits and sleeping habits and all that stuff as well. So then now what's going on is so many of my players are playing in the off season, which is great. They don't have time in the winter to work out. So we've kind of curtailed the workouts in the winter. And now that's more of a summer thing only. Because in the wintertime, they are training 2 or 3 times a week. And I'm doing the coaching thing. So we kind of have run out of time, unfortunately.
Totally makes sense. I love the menu idea. That's definitely the teacher in you, huh? Made like the 25 options and they can sort of pick from that. That's a great idea, actually. Just like
it's you know how it goes. It's you want your kids to do this, but you don't want to say you have to do this. So you kind of give them the, like you said, I never thought of it as a menu, but that's really what it is you're giving them the menu of pick and choose what you want to do today, but it has to be, it has to be something on here because I can't have you sitting here doing your bicep curls.
yeah. I mean, that's amazing that you saw that change in the buy-in between the two different programs and you were like, oh, okay, like this is
night and day.
That's amazing. Yeah. And like, I didn't do any, I mean, you've probably talked to Paul, but we had like a pretty serious strength program when we went to Springfield because it's obviously a big pillar of that school. But I mean, I did random lifting in high school. But I didn't have like an organized format. I wish I did, even just having someone show me what to do in the gym, like in high school. Cause I was just, I wanted to have abs and biceps and big pecs. So like, you're doing all the silly beach muscle stuff, nothing that was really going to help me in soccer. Luckily I didn't know what I was doing, so I couldn't really bulk up or put any weight on, but, I did see a difference in college once we had a more organized program and it was set up for us. So I wish I had gotten that earlier. The way you set it up in South Windsor there in Windsor.
Yeah, but I also feel like just like being a middle school student and kind of having them prepare for high school in terms of academics, realistically, when I'm doing my high school workouts for the freshmen and the sophomores, they're not doing those activities to build so much strength as much as it is bring the team in, get them working, get them moving their bodies. And realistically, until college, some of my soccer players, I see them sophomore year in college, they come back into town or they'll come watch one of our games and they've put on like 40 pounds of muscle. And I'm like, what happened? A lot of that is just, the body and, with men, they boys turn to men a lot later than girls turn to women, right? Just the science of it all. So a lot of these guys, you're kind of giving them the interest in lifting. And then when they get off to college, they really can turn it because they'll have more of an opportunity. They have more time to do it. And that's really when you can kind of see them turn into a true bodybuilder or a strength trainer or whatever.
The funny thing is after me and JP did our whole CrossFit career stuff, I kind of went back to soccer. So like you and I played the club, we did like over at the Dome for a while when, in our early mid 20s. And I was still coming off of college. So I was, lighter and light on my feet. And then I did CrossFit for about 10 years and then stopped.
Oh, yeah.
And I gained a gajillion pounds of muscle. And I went back to trying to play like men's soccer. And I felt like I still am like coming off of that, like still not feeling like an oaf because I was so much bigger than my frame was in college. So the wasteful muscles is something that rings true to me when you talk about that. You don't need all that.
But do you see like obviously with the training, I think for soccer you get so much on the field, but the gym stuff is more like injury prevention, like just kind of working different muscle groups to kind of balance yourself out a little bit. So
and that's the conversation I would have with the players is like, we're not in here because football would be in as we were walking in, football would be walking out or going through their workouts and the music is at full blast. The coach is, I love the coach, but screaming, yelling, let's go, more. And these kids are throwing up 400 pounds and screaming and yelling. And there's a huge board on the wall that has like, top 10 lifters of all time. And they're all the football team. And the boys kind of look there. And I wouldn't say any of them are intimidated, but they walk in there and they're like, all right, yeah, this is what we're going to do. I'm like, no, guys, a lot of our lifting is just injury prevention. You guys put so many miles on your legs, your lower back, all, your knees. This is all the stuff we want to do to kind of just make sure we're in good shape and for the season.
Love that.
Do you think there's a volume issue with playing for soccer, or is it like a mix between, because like I think in hockey, it's like if you played all year, it's like 90 games or 69 games. It's a lot. Do you think there's like a epidemic with too much playing and not enough like training, or like a balance, or are you like a proponent of like play as much as you can um, as a
I
coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think if it depends on, as a high school player, what type of cross training are you doing? So we do have some players who are wrestlers in the winter. We have some lacrosse players. We have some baseball players, hockey players. So I have no problem with kids playing year-round soccer, because unfortunately that's just where everyone's going, and that's the way to kind of stay along with everybody else. Because if you only play 3 months out of the year for soccer now, you are going to be so far behind. Um, I wouldn't say that I'm a proponent of like got to go every day, got to play every day. There has to be some off time, but um, I mean, I don't think I think we do a good job in Connecticut with soccer to not overdoing it. They have the season that the high school season is like, let's say September 10th to November 15th. And then Premier is very slow in Connecticut in a good way. They don't go to like 7 days a week. I mean, a lot of times they don't really start their season. Their indoor season is, maybe one or two practices a week and maybe one game on the weekends. And then once it gets nicer, in let's say March 1st, the outdoor season starts for the high level Premier kids, and they're playing 1-2 games during the week. During the weekend, and they have maybe 3 practices during the week, and then in the summertime, everybody's off. So there are definitely some ebbs and flows to high school aged soccer players, no matter what level you're playing at. So I feel like there's not a lot of overload injuries. But when you look at a high school season, because it is so truncated, yeah, you'll notice that there are some issues with that for kids that don't play a lot. And that's what I've noticed more is the kids that don't do anything in the summer get hurt in the regular season. The kids that are training most of the summer are usually in pretty good shape because their muscles are kind of used to that load.
Mm-hmm. They're not deconditioned. That actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So now I'm not saying that you're saying this, but we've talked about specialization, right, of athletes, and how in some ways in American sports and culture, it's been a little bit of a negative thing where kids specialize and then that's all that they do. And, they don't get exposed to other things. But I think what you're saying is not like you need to specialize early. It's just like once you decide that's your path, you can then start to specialize, which I think is a fair assessment. Like to say you shouldn't ever specialize a sport, I think is probably wrong, and you're going to sell yourself short. You're not going to ever become as good as you could be in that sport if you don't specialize at a certain point. But what you're saying is by the time they're in high school, 14, 15, 16, they've probably already chosen that path anyway. They're not playing like 4 different sports throughout the year. Right. Some might sprinkle in something like in a spring sport because soccer's a fall sport, but the rest of the year they're probably doing soccer for the most part.
Yeah, in fact, I'm going to name drop here. Alexi Lalas from the U.S. soccer team. We were in Philadelphia for a national coaches conference, and he was speaking. And afterwards, I ran over to go talk to him, and because I won't ever I'll have to go talk to any famous person that walks by me. But I grabbed him and I asked him the same question. I said, "What do you think about specializing in sports for youth soccer players?" And he said, "Oh, great question. Great question. I was a hockey player growing up." He was, "I actually liked hockey better than I liked soccer." And because he grew up in Michigan. And he said, "I played hockey all the time, played soccer as much as I could as well." But he said, "There's just something to be said about playing different sports. It just gives you a different training, different perspective. It's just different sports, different muscle groups are being used." But he did mention, as they get older, you have to choose. And I kind of felt, and I told him, I was like, "Wow, I actually feel the same way. This is crazy." But, he was right. In my opinion, he's right. My son, let's play as much as we can. I mean, I played basketball, I played a little bit of hockey, but I was a soccer and baseball player. Tyler really took to soccer and baseball, loved both sports, but it was interesting when it was free time, he wanted to play soccer. And then as he got older and older, he continued to play both until it got to now in 6th grade. That's the last year you can play Little League. And his last game, he basically said, I think I'm done playing baseball. Well, why? You can play next summer in the Legion in town. No, I want to train. I want to play soccer. I have to keep going with soccer. And it's not an obsessive personality he has. It's more just the realization that everybody else around me is getting better. And this is what I want to do. This is what I like. I have to now choose this. So it's really, I feel like this is going to be the first spring coming up that he is not playing a different sport.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's taken. How old is he now? What's his age?
7th grader, he's 12.
Yeah, so he's gotten 12 years of playing different stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good foundation to then jump off from if you do want to divert and specialize. In rare occasions you're going to have freak athletes who are like a basketball college prospect and a football college prospect. Like there are people like that out there, but I think for the vast majority of athletes, if you want to take your game to the next level, you probably do need to specialize somewhere around that middle school age, if we're being honest and fair about it. And it doesn't mean you can't play other sports, but I think you're going to have to put more energy into that bucket for that one thing if you really want to be great at it and excel at it.
Yeah, I would agree. My high school players that play more than one sport, they are definitely, some of them are very good athletes and very good soccer players, but it's rare to have a top level soccer player who also is playing another sport in high school.
For sure. What I think about too is with you, because I know the whole Lepak crew, we played soccer together, but we also played flag football together. And I just don't I tell people this all the time, and me and JP have talked about this too, is like, I don't think it would have been possible for like me or you guys to play flag football if you hadn't grown up playing wiffle ball in your backyard, playing baseball, playing other sports, because you just don't develop those skill sets, like just to be able to be sort of like a jack of all trades if you wanted to like join a rec league or a men's league of something. And actually flag football was one of my favorite things we used to do back in the day. Even as much as I love soccer, flag football used to actually, I used to love it. And there's no way I could have done it if I didn't play baseball like you guys did growing up.
No, that's a really good point. I mean, the fact that we all played so many different sports growing up, you do have a little base in those sports. I mean, there's, I don't even really enjoy having my son play video games, but I almost feel like it's one of those things where, hey, let him play a little bit of video games so that when he gets older, in case he goes to a friend's house and they say, hey, you want to play FIFA? He doesn't go, well, what's this controller thing? So the fact that we played so many sports growing up, yeah, you're right. When we got older and we said, hey, let's play flag football, even though none of us played football growing up, we all knew what we were doing. I mean, my brother Chris he played hockey for Windsor High School for I think his last 2 years, junior, senior. He was a goalkeeper or a goaltender. The only reason why was because he played street hockey for like 10 years as a goalkeeper. And then he said, what? I want
no formal training.
No, and he wasn't very good, but he liked it. He was like the third string keeper and got some training in. But it's one of those things where, he can probably, if he wanted to today, he could go on the ice and put pads on and be better than half the other kids who've never done it before. So
that's cool. What have you seen? Like, obviously, I love your aspect of like training other coaches. What's the one thing that coaches are getting wrong? Like, if you could I know there's so many specifics, but like a new coach starting soccer, what's he missing? Is it like what's the piece that you're like, oh, this is what they need the most?
Well, a lot of what I see, they're missing that point where it's like organization. Practices are a mess. And I don't truly blame the person. I just don't think they know what they're getting themselves into. And that's the frustrating part with coaching, because we say at the travel level, this is the one downside. And I kind of mentioned it earlier. You have these volunteer parents who, your kid wants to play soccer? Okay, well, he's on the second tier team. We don't have a coach for the second tier team. Do you want to coach? Yeah, sure, I'll do it. I played soccer once. Okay, great. Here's some cones. Here's your team. Good luck. And they show up and they go, well, what am I going to do with these 15 kids that are yelling and jumping? And, reminds me of the movie The Little Giants, where they're all kind of running around acting. And it's like, what do I do? And so that's U.S. Soccer implemented the play, practice, play model which I think U.S. hockey is doing something similar. But all it is when kids show up, you have a little mini field set up and they start to play like 3v3. Just have them on two fields, 3v3. Watch. Don't even coach. Just watch for 15 minutes. Let them play. Let them enjoy it. And then what do you see in that 15 minutes? What are they missing? What's not happening there? And then take what they're missing and try to teach it to them in 20 to 25 minutes for the practice session. So maybe they are missing the goal all the time. All right, well, let's talk about how can we get closer to the goal? And a lot of it's question based. So now coaching used to just be the coach tells the players what to do. Now a lot of it's questions based. So you've got 3 kids going playing against 2 players, 3v2. All right, you're going to work on offense today. My 3 players, how do we get closer to the goal? Well, we can dribble the ball. Okay, well, what happens if someone's defending you? What do you do then? Well, I could pass to one of my players. Okay, great. Where would be a good place to stand? And then they go move next to the player. Well, is that close? Do you think that would be a good pass if they're that close? No, I should go over here. And it's innate for a lot of these players. They don't know how to explain it. But if you tell them where should you be right now, even at the youngest of age, they kind of can figure out I got to space out. And so we try to teach the coaches, this is the coaching that you need to do, because it's not, no offense on the coaches, but it's not that hard. You let them play for fun. Then you teach one topic and you just ask them questions and let them figure it out. And then in the end, they call it play 2. In the end, it's basically, all right, put it all together and then play a larger scale pickup like scrimmage. And that's where you can maybe do a little bit more. Okay, stop. No, remember what we talked earlier? Where do you need to be here? Oh, good. Spread out. Okay, start again. And so we try to teach the coaches that, because so often coaches come in with no experience and they think they have to coach every aspect of the game. You're not going to be able to teach an 8-year-old kid how to shoot, dribble, pass, defend, have throw-ins, take corner kicks and goal kicks in one practice. You have to. And I remember my first year I ever started with youth soccer. I'm in Windsor and I'm coaching maybe, I think it was U10. And it's my first time with these kids. I'm very excited to coach them. And I have my whole lesson plan. I'm always coming with a paper. And I'm like, all right, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. And I have them, 15 cones on the ground, and they all stand on a cone, and they're doing they pass to here, do an overlap here. Within 5 minutes, I rip my tape up and I these kids have no idea what they're doing. And I was very frustrated because I'm like, I want to teach them soccer. I want to win games and I want to be able to, and I realized like very quickly, that is no longer the goal here. It's just, where are they? Where can I meet them at? And how can I get them better? And when U.S. Soccer came up with the play, practice, play model for new coaches, it's ideal because it really takes not that this is a bad thing to say, but it takes the power out of your hands and it turns it more into let the kids dictate the type of game they're playing. Let them have fun, because so often with youth sports, coaches and parents ruin it for their kids. Because we try to just tell them how bad they are or what they need to do to get better. You need to do this. No, you need to work harder. Just let them play. And they'll kind of sort themselves out. The kids that don't like it, my goal as a youth coach, and parents sometimes cringe when I say this, but it's as much to make you better as it is to make you to quit. And by quitting, it's not, I don't mean it in a bad way. You're playing soccer. All these kids want to do all these things. You're not into it. Okay, well, I'm going to keep trying to tell you or give you opportunities to play with other kids. After a couple of years, everyone's just outplaying you because you're not interested in it. At 11 years old, you realize, I don't want to do this. I like playing this sport. And then they go and quit, and then they end up being a top-level high school track star because at 11, they wanted to do something else. So I know that sounds horrible to say, but like I did my first couple of years, I was in Windsor and I had a freshman show up to tryouts. And I looked at this kid and I'm like, and I remember my brother was helping me out at tryouts, Paul. And he goes, well, don't worry about this. Like, this is your first year playing soccer. Like, you'll get comfortable. Like, you'll figure it out if you make the team. And the kid goes, I've been playing since I was 6. And Paul went, oh, that would have been a perfect kid to, at 11 or 12 years old, getting more of that play practice play where he's constantly playing one-on-ones with other kids and realizing this isn't fun.
Yeah.
I'm going to try something else. And then they go and they spend time playing another sport or cross country and they end up loving it and, soar in that direction.
Yeah, that's
So many good points there. Like,
yeah. The coaching
great.
thing is crazy. Like I never thought of that, but like it is true. Like every parent who's played like 1 year of soccer, like, oh yeah, I'll coach my kids' team, and then they show up for a practice, and it's just absolute chaos. That's what I coach my girls, and they're 7 years, going to be 7, and going to be 6 or 5, and like it's all at this big field, and there's like a bazillion teams all playing, and like my group's all organized, and we're doing our thing, and I look around me, and it looks like absolute chaos, and I'm like, how can nothing's getting done here? And it's fine. It's 6 and 7 year olds, whatever. But it's obvious that those parents like rolled out of bed, didn't have a plan. They got a bag of balls and some pennies and some cones, and they're just like, all right, we got an hour here to kill. Let's play duck, duck, goose or whatever.
Yep.
So yeah, I never thought the play practice play thing is amazing. I love that idea. It's a very simplified, boiled down method.
Yeah, and you can translate that to like your own training as well. Like have a plan. Like I love the menu that you had for your players. I love like, hey, like this is what you should have a plan of what you're going into, whether it's your own training or you're training someone else. Like I get frustrated being a coach, like running. I used to run, coach lacrosse, coach, CrossFit, 30-person classes. It's like you have to have structure, and like you watch coaches. We might take my daughter to a gymnastics class, and like my wife was a high level gymnast, and she's like, "What are they doing?" Like as a athlete, you watch the other coaches, you're like, "What are we accomplishing here?" Like there's so much that you could get done, and I think having that structure, having that game plan. For yourself or whether you're teaching people is like a huge thing. And obviously you guys as teachers, like you guys constantly, every day you have a game plan, you have a lesson plan, so very natural, but I think that's a great like blueprint to follow. And I love as an athlete, like you're there to play the sport. I think you get stuck in so many different drills and, let's work on this technique. It's like you get the most, especially at a younger age, like just play, like play as much as you can. And I think at a young age too, I think, I can't stand when you run a drill and there's only 2 or 3 kids in the drill, 10 kids in line. Like those 10 kids are going to be kicking each other. Like you need everyone to be doing something. I think I see that as a youth coach a lot is like, if you're coaching 3 to 4 year olds, like no one can be sitting around. Like you have to be moving. So I think that play part is huge,
I'm writing, we have a coaches meeting in about a month for like the 75 coaches that are going to be coaching travel soccer in town, and I'm coming up with like a top 10 things a coach should know, and a lot of what you just mentioned is going to be in that top 10. Yes, make sure you do this, make sure you do this, and it's basic stuff. It's not so much about coaching is not about knowing the sport. It's my assistant coach, who's actually my assistant coach at the high school, and he's my assistant coach with my youth team that's been doing so well. He never even played soccer. He was a basketball and football guy, but he's a teacher, and he is so good with kids, and he can break things down so easily. And I give him so much credit because he doesn't really know soccer. I mean, he knows sports, so every sport, but he shows up and he just listens and goes, okay. And he was a big proponent of the play, practice, play. And one thing I always tell my new coaches is, listen, I'm telling you, if you set the fields up and you put the pennies down and the kids get dropped off and they start walking over and they see kids playing already, by the second or third practice, they are sprinting out of their car to play. And I will tell you that has happened with my youth teams for the last couple of years. You'll get to practice and you'll see a couple of teams where the kids are just slowly walking to practice. They're sitting, they're splashing water on each other, they're laughing. My team, they get dropped off and they are sprinting to the field, because if they're the 4th kid that's getting dropped off, it's already 2 versus 1 on the field. And they go, and they run in, put a penny on, and they run themselves. They run the practice almost runs itself because they are so motivated to go play, because that's what kids want to do at young ages. They just want to play against each other. Now, when I say kids, one thing I do have to specify is I've coached boys my entire life. I can't speak so much to the girls side. Um, not my specialty. Completely different game for boys soccer and girls soccer in terms of how to manage girls versus boys. Because I did coach my daughter for a year, and many times when I would be looking around during practice play, and she's drinking water on her back on the floor, like splashing water just to herself. And so she wasn't very much into it at all. But yeah, so most of what I'm talking about today is really applies to the boys.
So we got a
I'm sure
couple
a
more
lot of
minutes here. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
So we got a couple more minutes here before I gotta get I can hear the circus is starting upstairs. Is there any like last big note you want to share with coaches, players, anything that you would want someone to walk away if they listen to this episode, from your point of view as your experience?
I mean, I would say if you are a parent of a youth athlete, your job is to listen to your kid. And if your kid says, I want to go to soccer, I want to play lacrosse, find an avenue for them to do that. Go to the game, watch the game, enjoy watching your child play. And then no matter what happens, no matter how much you think you know as an adult, no matter how much you think you can show your kid as an adult what you can do to get better and what you should have done on the field, when you get in the car, you should say to them, I enjoyed watching you play, and then put Bad Bunny on and just dance. Because parents ruin it. And you know the parents who ruin it because you can see it on the sidelines. They get in the car and that parent will scream and yell at their kid about what they didn't do and how they should have done better. And those kids end up getting a little bit of an attitude when they're on the field. They're the ones that whine a little bit more on the field when things don't go well. And they're the ones that end up quitting. And then those parents aren't all that fun to be around too. I mean, I coach for the most part, but when I watch my son play Premier, I sit on the sidelines. So I'm a parent. And you see some other teams where some of these parents are screaming and yelling. You're like, I can't imagine what that car ride home is like. And so, yeah, as a parent, just enjoy the moment. I know how hard it can be because you want to tell your kids what you think you know and what you're supposed to do. And the other thing is just the way that you talk about the coach is so important. Even if it's around your husband or wife, your kid listens. My son listens to everything I say, even if he's not in the room. If you're talking poorly about a coach, even if he's not a great coach, when your son's on the field, if the coach says to do something, your son is not going to work as hard for that coach because he already knows the two people or the one person I love the most in life, my parent or parents, say that this coach is no good or doesn't do a good job. And that kills it for your child. You are already teaching your child bad habits of not listening to the person in charge.
Yeah.
Love it. Some great points there, sir.
Great points.
Where can the people find you on social medias? Like, I'm going to link your YouTube page when I post this as well, but what's your socials for Instagram if they're looking for Coach Peter Lepak?
Instagram is Coach_Lepak, Lepak. You can look at YouTube as Coach Pete Lepak, Lepak. And if you're a new coach to soccer or, you're just interested in some new ideas, I'm trying to get videos up there. I have about 90 videos so far. A lot of them I've made.
Nice.
It's just fun. It's kind of a fun thing that I do. But yeah, I mean, I love talking soccer. I love coaching coaches. So if anyone ever has any questions, feel free to reach out at.
I will link you when we post this episode. I'll put all your stuff in there so people can click and find you, so that they can go see your good stuff out there because we know it's good stuff.
Very good.
All right. Pete, appreciate having you on here. We'll have to do it again sometime and talk again. This was great.
Yeah, for sure. It was great to talk to you guys. JP, nice to meet you. Mick,
very nice.
See you again.
You as well, sir. We're going to sign off here. You can find me at the Dad Bod Chronicles. JP, where can they find you?
JP Wiz on Instagram.
Thanks for listening, folks.
Thanks, guys.